Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2022 Hate Watchers Awards. I'm your host, Mr. Hate Watcher. Tonight, we will be honoring the worst TV shows and movies of the past year as the nominees vie to take home 10 separate Hate Watchers Awards. And there are certainly absolutely abysmal pieces of trash out there that may be worse than the shows and movies that'll be going home with awards tonight. Any piece of crap can make it to the theaters or some streaming service, but who cares if only 10,000 people watched it? As such, when our committee selected tonight's nominees, special consideration was given to the shows and movies that reached millions of eyeballs, that hung around in the pop culture headlines, and that we've reviewed on the channel. Without further ado, let's kick things off with the first award we'll be handing out tonight. We begin the night with an award that commemorates the power of the spoken word. More specifically for this category, the lack of mastery over the spoken word, with the crappiest dialogue award. Our nominees tonight are Willow, Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power, and She-Hulk. Willow earned its nomination here for its unique ability to take cringy, awful dialogue and mix it with 21st century slang, idioms, and attitude. The Rings of Power put on a masterclass of laughably bad, empty, hollow, self-indulgent dialogue that dragged on endlessly without meaning or importance. And She-Hulk earns the nod for expertly weaving poop jokes into a script that simultaneously demands that you respect women. And now, the award for crappiest dialogue goes to The Rings of Power.
One cannot satisfy thirst by drinking sealed.
This is a clutch, early win for the Rings of Power, and they'll be looking to hear their name again tonight in the coming awards categories. Next up, we have the award for the worst sequel or reboot. Some shows and movies from the past should stay in the past, and this award honors those creators and producers who couldn't let a franchise or brand remain dormant. Our first nominee, Jurassic World Dominion, was always going to be released as the first reboot of the trilogy Jurassic World was too much of a blockbuster to leave alone. But after a weak second showing, Dominion was doomed from the start. Its uninterested acting mixed with a jumbled mess of a storyline relegated it to the garbage heap of 2022's slate of films. Also nominated for the worst sequel or reboot is the Resident Evil series on Netflix. This absolute mess of a story that bounces between teen drama and zombie apocalypse struggled to even include clumsy Easter egg references to the video games that gave birth to the franchise. Lastly, Willow secures their second nomination of the night in as many awards. This small screen successor to the underwhelming film of the same name managed to stand out as a prime example of a shameless modern reboot reshaped for our modern world. And the award for worst sequel or reboot goes to Willow! Having just missed out on taking home the crappiest dialogue award, Willow gets its first win of the night as it's crowned the worst sequel or reboot of 2022. Our next accolade, the Strongest and Independentest Award, highlights the show or movie that best portrays the overwhelming superiority of strong independent women in modern media. The Wheel of Time secures its first nomination of the night for its uncompromising portrayal of a world dominated by strong women. The men in this show are seemingly lost in this fantasy world, just waiting for the nearest strong woman to boss them around. And to top it all off, the entire premise revolves around strong women seeking to hunt down and eliminate an evil, all-powerful, penis-wielding man, so he doesn't ruin their world. The second nominee comes to us from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as She-Hulk smashes through the wall to announce its strength and independence. Jen Walters is a badass girl-boss attorney who can transform to her unstoppable She-Hulk form at will. As an added cherry on top, she boasts complete control over her emotions at all times, something her male counterpart spent a decade learning to do. She certainly embodies the strength aspect of this award. Last up, Willow secures yet another nomination. All the men in the show are weak, ineffectual peons only there to be led around by our strong female protagonists. And the Strongest and Independentest award goes to The Wheel of Time. She-Hulk made a very strong showing in this category, but no show or movie better relegated men to the background of a woman's story better than The Wheel of Time. And yes, The Wheel of Time aired in 2021, but our selection committee gave it special consideration to be considered for these awards as it aired too late to qualify for last year's. Moving along to the next award, we are shining the spotlight on those nominees whose show or movie set out to insult the fans of the source material with the Most Disrespectful to Fans award. The Rings of Power earns another nomination in this category for its cavalier handling of the lore and for butchering existing characters to fit their desired narrative. A late entry into this awards season, The Witcher Blood Origin earns its first nomination of the night. The creators, showrunner, and writers have all banded together to bring us one of the most bastardized adaptations of a fantasy world that fans have ever been subjected to. And finally, Halo earns its first nomination as well. A classic example of a skin suit, Halo's creators set out to tell their own fantasy sci-fi story, and shamelessly donned the skin of the Halo brand to abuse a fanbase built off of a long-running video game franchise for cheap viewership. And the most disrespectful to fans award goes to The Witcher Blood Origin. Choosing the winner of this award was by far the hardest selection of the night thus far. While both Halo and the Rings of Power did their part in murdering the goodwill fans had toward their respective brands, The Witcher Blood Origin made no attempt to satisfy the fans of the Witcher universe, as the abysmal show trampled all over the lore, dissatisfying critics and fans alike. Next up, we have the Most On-Message Award. This award is reserved for the show or movie that best echoes the pre-approved messaging about current thing. The three nominees from the Strongest and Independentest Award all earn nominations yet again in this category, with The Wheel of Time, She-Hulk, and Willow. All three feature allusions to the virtue of strong women and how men's presence just makes the world worse, a common theme throughout 2022's offerings. And so, the Most On-Message Award goes to She-Hulk. Despite clumsy and ham-fisted medieval parables to modern society in The Wheel of Time and Willow, no show can better show the plight of the modern woman than a show about the modern woman. And She-Hulk masterfully encapsulates all the bullshit tropes you'd expect, most notably evil, childish men and strong career-oriented women who can have it all: love, respect, and success. This next award honors the show or movie that thinks the highest of itself, whether through unabashed smugness or taking itself very seriously. And as such, it's the aptly named Farthest Up Its Own Ass Award. The first nominee comes in the form of the recent blockbuster Avatar: The Way of Water. Love it, hate it, or don't care about it, none can deny that Avatar and its creator James Cameron are obsessed with the world they've created. From the long, self-indulgent scenes showcasing the world of Pandora to making viewers wait 13 years for a sequel, Avatar is pretty far up its own ass. The next nominee is a film by the name of The Bubble. COVID lockdowns made the disparity between fans and rich Hollywood elites glaringly obvious, and this tone-deaf movie did nothing but further that divide. At a time when viewers have grown more and more disillusioned with rich actors and directors, what better movie to release than a humorless comedy about rich actors and directors struggling to film a multi-million-dollar film in the midst of a pandemic while locked down in a luxurious English hotel? You know, during the time when everyday people struggled to put food on the table and keep their jobs. The Rings of Power earns the final nomination in this category, as while the dialogue had most fans laughing and cringing, you could tell the writers and creators truly thought they were producing some of the most powerful lines in recent memory. And the Farthest Up Its Own Ass Award goes to The Bubble. This one goes out to all of you in Hollywood. See if you can get this award even further up there because you deserve it. Moving to the characters of these shows and movies themselves, we have the award for the lamest character. This award singles out those particularly shitty, annoying, please die next episode types of characters. The kinds of characters who no one would miss and their deletion from the script would only improve the story. First up, Kenobi is getting its first nomination, although this one is specifically for Reva. A completely new character in the Star Wars universe, Reva defied obvious death twice to continue to haunt this show, absolutely shattering the lore along the way. In a show that was supposed to revisit one of Star Wars' most memorable characters and his struggle to survive in a world devoid of Jedi, Reva became the focus all too often and annoyed the bejesus out of fans. For the second nomination, Kwan Ha of the Halo show earns the nod. Another annoyance anytime she graced the screen, even her father's supporters told her to get bent when she returned to lead them against the new local warlord. Her entire storyline was a boring distraction from an already terrible show and had fans praying for her slow, painful demise. Snagging the third nomination is everyone's favorite emotionless sociopath, Galadriel. Unlike the two previous nominees, Galadriel was an existing character in Tolkien's lore before the Rings of Power crapped its way into our lives. Rather than being an annoying character who didn't interest fans, Galadriel earns this nomination by virtue of her shameful, disrespectful, lore-breaking depiction in this show. And the award for lamest character goes to Kwan Ha. You can learn a lot about a character by which scene of theirs is the favorite of fans. And fans' favorite scene of Kwan is her repeatedly dying during some vision quest. Sticking with the individual accolades, we move from lamest character to worst actor. These days, visionless, uncreative scriptwriters rarely give their actors much to work with. And every once in a while, an actor or actress finds a way to make things even worse. First up, we have Morphy Clark and her depiction of Galadriel in The Rings of Power. We all know the writing for The Rings of Power was trash, but this actress managed to make it 8 episodes without showing a hint of emotion. And when she tried, the results were disastrous. Next up, we have Jared Leto. His performance in Morbius was forgettable to say the least, but this nomination is as much a repudiation of his entire acting career as it is a nomination for that movie in particular. Who is Leto sleeping with to keep getting all of these acting gigs? Lastly, we have Erin Kellyman for her, performance as Jade Claymore in Willow. Kellyman's portrayal here makes it clear that she keeps getting her roles based on her unique look, rather than her acting chops. And the award for Worst Actor goes to Morphy Clark as Galadriel. The Rings of Power secures its second win of the night, and a well-deserved win at that. For our penultimate Hate Watchers award this evening, we have the Most Incoherent Story award. Nominees for this award have the unique distinction of leaving audiences saying, "What the fuck?" as the credits are rolled. Jurassic World Dominion gets the first nod in this category for its jumbled mess of different storylines that are littered with plot contrivances needed to bring the story home. Secondly, we have the Book of Boba Fett getting its only nomination of the night. Not only did the Book of Boba Fett turn into The Mandalorian Season 2.5 halfway through, but when it returned for the final conflict of the season, the show couldn't even present a coherent reason for the sides to even be fighting anymore. The Witcher Blood Origin grabs the final nomination in this category. It's not hard to figure out what Blood Origin is about, as Minnie Driver tells us the entire plot in the first 5 minutes. But the execution for this show was just baffling. They tried to incorporate no less than 15 different themes in less than 4 hours of screen time. And in the end, all of the important events in the Witcher universe were thrown into the last 10 minutes almost as an afterthought. And so, the Most Incoherent Story award goes to Jurassic World Dominion. After missing out on the award for the worst sequel or reboot, Jurassic World gets its first win of the night thanks to all of its uninteresting, contrived storylines stitched together to create one shitty movie. Now we want to take a brief break here to interject some positivity into this awards night. While we actually view ourselves as a positive channel, reassuring fans that their dislike of a piece of media is justified, and calling out studios for putting out crap and expecting us to like it, it can be easy to get bogged down and feel negative about the state of TV and movies. As such, we're giving out 3 awards tonight that celebrate things shows and movies did right. First up, we have the award for the sickest scene, awarded for those memorable scenes that let you know you're watching something special. This year, the sickest scene award goes to King Viserys' final march to his throne in House of the Dragon. Consideration was given to Andor's prison break scene and Stranger Things fight scene between 1 and 11. But Viserys' final ride was the culmination of one man's powerhouse performance. Paddy Considine deserves an Emmy for his portrayal of Viserys, which went above and beyond anything George R.R. Martin ever wrote for the character, and this scene sealed the deal in most people's minds. The next positive award is for the best big-budget movie of the year. Even though it's not as recent as some others, Top Gun Maverick takes the win here. Avatar 2 deserves a mention here because of its groundbreaking work in mocap and blending real, practical effects into a CGI world. But Top Gun is everything a blockbuster should be. It's entertaining, heartwarming, and triumphant. And most importantly, it doesn't draw you into the theaters to preach to you. It only seeks to entertain. In our view, practical effects are king, and few effects have as much impact on the big screen as seeing real actors hop in F-18s to buzz over mountainsides. Our last positive award is for the best fantasy TV show of 2022. This award came down to Andor and House of the Dragon, and Andor is getting the nod here. While Andor wasn't perfect, it was a great, well-made, gripping show. And while future seasons of House of the Dragon will blow Andor out of the water, the first season of Hot D just didn't have enough in the way of conflict. But that was by design. Season 1's goal was to set the board for explosive conflicts to come. And now, we've come to the granddaddy of them all, the award for the worst writing of 2022. The first nomination for worst writing goes to Willow. The previously mentioned awful dialogue in Willow was coupled with a bland storyline full of mind-boggling decision-making and lame characters. Next up, The Rings of Power gets its 6th nomination tonight. Our channel has documented the Rings of Power's awful writing all along the way, and much like Willow, it pairs terrible dialogue with meandering storylines that shatter existing lore on their way to an underwhelming conclusion. And our final nominee for worst writing arrived wrapped under the Christmas tree less than a week ago in the form of The Witcher: Blood Origin. Finally free from the source material they hate, a bunch of talentless writers with an agenda were given free rein to craft their own story in the Witcher universe. And it went about how you'd expect it would. The lore was changed to fit their modern worldview, and the story took a back seat to just about everything else on the checklist of things these writers wanted to include. If this wasn't the final nail in the coffin of Witcher TV shows, then Season 3 of The Witcher will certainly hammer it home. And now, the award for the worst writing of 2022 goes to The Rings of Power. In addition to the previously mentioned issues with the writing, Rings of Power committed the cardinal sin of being boring. It took 5 episodes for some of the disconnected characters and their storylines to even begin moving toward the other characters. And when they did, they teleported to where they needed to be exactly when they needed to be there. Put that kind of nonsense next to Galadriel talking about seawater during life and death situations, and you have a perfect storm of shitty writing. Well, it's clearly been a mind-numbingly bad year for TV shows. And while TV shows are fertile ground for bad storytelling because their profitability and return on investment is much less straightforward and clear than that of a movie, 2022 saw an explosion of especially heinous, disrespectful, incomprehensibly bad shows. The Rings of Power is the clear loser tonight, taking home 3 awards for its writing and acting out of 6 nominations.
Give me the meat and give it to me raw.
Willow also snagged 6 nominations, taking home the win for the worst sequel or reboot. The Witcher: Blood Origin was a surprise late entry and performed well, winning 1 award on 3 nominations, despite releasing 5 days before tonight's ceremony. Thank you for joining us here tonight. We hope that you enjoyed the time spent with us as we took the crap that movie and TV studios gave us all year and threw it right back at them. Let us know in the comments below. Any other awards that you think should have been given out tonight, or other shows and movies that should have been considered? What awards did we get wrong in your opinion? We're expecting quite a bit of differing opinions there, so let us know. Please like the video if you liked it, as it helps our videos reach more struggling fans out there. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to join us back here for all the crappy shows and movies coming in 2023. 2022 was an especially crappy year for shows and movies, so 2023 has its work cut out for it. Oh, and we also review good shows and movies, so subscribe for those as well. Thank you again, and we'll catch you on the next one.